Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Creative Differences podcast. I'm Dallas, and I'm starting to think that maybe I should just trust the impressions I get from watching movie trailers.
I'm Colin, and that kind of seems like the point, right? Like, a trailer isn't necessarily going to tell you if you'll like it, but it can give you a vibe. And if that vibe is not your vibe, that's okay.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm Demi, and I'm mostly here because I feel like I should be, because I forced Dallas to go see one of these movies. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Differences podcast, your one-stop shop for movie reviews, Fancast Fridays, Throwback Thursdays, and a number of other pop culture-related items. Today, we are doing movie reviews for The Invitation and 3,000 Years of Longing.
That is correct. We got Vamps. We got Jen. We don't got Gabby. She ain't here. What a surprise.
We tried.
We tried. She went to stay with a rich white family, and no one has seen her since. So.
Oh, my God. I was going to say, we tried to rub the lamp and get her to come out, but she wouldn't come out.
Yeah, she gone. But before we get into it, please like, share, subscribe, do all the things, or you too will be overcome by horror movie protagonist stupidity and go stay with a white family you've never met, thousands of miles away from your friends. You could avoid all that. Just like, share, subscribe. Speaking of that, let's get into it. Demi, before you intro this movie,
yes,
I want to clarify some things in case they aren't clear. They might be. If you listen to us, you probably know that I'm the most outspoken proponent for art being subjective. As such, it may have been conveyed in the past by me or others that I do not believe in good or bad art. That is not exactly the case. I do believe in good and bad art as a concept. I just believe that what makes them good or bad is different for each person. But I say all that to distinguish between movies that I think are bad, given my own scale of what's good and bad, and movies that I don't think are bad, but I still don't really like that much. But it all comes down to my own personal taste and blah,
blah, blah, blah, blah, blah.
Right? So to me, tell us about The Invitation.
All right, y'all. Well, we're talking about The Invitation, directed by Jessica M. Thompson, written by Jessica M. Thompson and Blair Butler, starring Natalie Emmanuel, Thomas Doherty, Sean Pertwee, Hugh Skinner, and Courtney Taylor. All right, the IMDb summary. A young woman is courted and swept off her feet only to realize a gothic conspiracy is afoot.
A gothic conspiracy?
No, that's legitimately what happens. It's a gothic conspiracy.
It's a pretty good way to describe it.
That's a real. Actually, I think that's a very flowery and beautiful way of describing what happens in this movie.
Swept off her feet. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
feels like
gothic conspiracy, beautiful
novel.
Yeah, Dallas.
Yes. So the reason for that long preamble, I think The Invitation is a bad movie.
Figured that's where that was going. Yeah,
but I don't like to be negative, so I'm gonna do it really fast, and then I'm gonna stop, and then we're gonna talk about things in a way that's less negative. Okay, so essentially, the whole time I was watching this movie, I just felt like this is Get Out, but worse, because so much of this movie just feels like someone wanted to make Get Out again, but that movie already exists, and they also wanted to take inspiration from some pretty cool stuff, like vampires. I respect that.
Yeah,
and sometimes movies can feel derivative, but they do things in the way that makes me enjoy them on their own merit. Like, there's a lot of Superbad in Booksmart, but Booksmart is clever and funny in its own ways. And, there's no rapey subplot, which I think is very nice. But this movie, I was just like, man, I could be watching Get Out right now. After the opening scene, because the opening scene is very gothic conspiracy horror. But then when we meet Natalie Emmanuel's character, what's her name? I can't remember.
Evie.
I love that name. Once you meet Evie, it feels very rom-com, like typical rom-com for me. And I was like, not my bag, but it's a horror movie, so once we get to the horror, I might like it. And then we got to the horror, and I did not like it. So I was like, oh no, that was it. That was my thing. That was the thing I was latching on to. I don't like this. And I just feel like it's because they do a lot of cliche horror things in the most predictable ways. There's a scene when she gets there, and she's like, yo, what's up with the windows and the bars and all that stuff? And she was like, oh, we got these angry-ass birds. They just be dive bombing in the niggas' rooms. That's not the dialogue, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then they wouldn't have said that to her. That would have been a problem.
I hope fake Judi Dench didn't say that to this woman. So then later on, she's FaceTiming her friend, comic relief friend, that Lil Rel was playing in Get Out, but now it's not him because it's not Get Out. And her face is pretty much pressed up against the window. And then they do this shot that makes it clear that a bird is about to smack the window. And then a bird smacks the window. I think this movie might have the loudest jump scare noises that I've heard in a long time. And you can't really escape jump scares even in horror movies that I really like. Like, it's just a thing. It's part of the genre. Sometimes they're going to scare you. Yeah, because I hate those. Like, even some of my favorite horror movies. The Quiet Place has a jump scare with a raccoon. Like, why are we doing this? It's a raccoon.
See, I hate those, like, bait and switch ones.
Exactly. Because if you jump scare me with the thing that's scary, all right, you wanted to Salt Bay a little scare noise into the scene that's already supposed to be scary. But like, yeah, a bird hit the window, and oh man, a bird hit the window. Bye. But then, like, and the worst one is earlier when she's walking down the hallway and it's dark because it's a horror movie and it's scary. And then they do the loudest noise, and it's just the woman who lives in the house. It's the maid.
It's her housekeeper.
The least scary person in the movie. She's just standing there, and they go, and I was like, yo.
They do a lot of those.
That's my take on the things I don't like, and I'm going to stop being negative because I don't enjoy it. Jimmy, what do you think of the movie?
I'm going to preface this with saying I won at long last. Dallas has finally admitted that there is such a thing as good and bad art. I win.
That's why I made the clarification, because like I don't believe the opposite to be true. I think like my idea of good and bad art can differ for Colin's, can differ from Demi's, can differ from Gabby's. And I've probably been not clear enough that people think I'm saying there is no good art, there is no bad art, which is why I gave that long ass preamble.
That's literally what it has always sounded like.
You're right, and I'm like,
somebody who has had in-depth conversations with you about this topic.
I feel like I've been putting out the wrong thing, but then also it's because that is, I guess, part of the art is subjective conversation, because I don't believe that art is objective in any sense. I just feel like my good art and Colin's good art can be different, and they are, based on conversations I've had with Colin.
Anyway, my review of the film. The way that I feel about this movie, the same way that you felt about Day Shift. If there were a different cast, I probably would not have been as interested as I was.
Right.
Knowing what I now know about the movie, having seen it, I think that the story is told from a very fascinating angle, but I don't think the writing matches the cleverness of the perspective. I do like the themes, which match classic vampire stories of like wealth and elitism and rich people sucking the poorer classes dry. They do it through vampires, being bloodsuckers.
Literally sucking.
Yeah, that's literally what
Direct,
it is.
But hey,
that good suck.
I mean, yeah, that's what vampires were kind of created to do as like thematically, which I think most vampire stories nowadays have lost that element of theme, because vampires are not just, it's just something cool to use as a creature. And I feel like this movie kind of goes back to those original themes of vampirism. And I like the gothic romance, but it's all so surface level. And the movie also takes way too long to get to the turning point. Yeah. And then when you get to that turning point, the third act goes by way too quickly and way too easily. You were talking about the movie starts off with like a really creepy scene. And then once we get to Natalie Emmanuel's character, it kind of it turns into kind of a different movie. I wish that they had gone the From Dusk Till Dawn route, which is that you start the movie and it seems like it's going to be this kind of movie. And then you reach a turning point and you're like, oh, it's not that kind of movie at all. And I think if you get rid of the opening scene and just start with Natalie Emmanuel's character and we're forced to go on this journey with her from her perspective, it becomes a lot more creepy that way. And I think it would have been more effective that way. I do love this cast, though. Natalie Emmanuel has the potential to be a really great leading lady, so give her more opportunity to do so. Thomas Doherty is charming, as always, and I think he really works for this role. I would not mind watching them together in another gothic romance. Courtney Taylor is in this movie far more than I expected, and that made me happy because I think everything she does is funny. I follow her on Instagram, and she's hilarious, so I was really excited to see her in this movie. Visually, I like the cinematography. It's got a real, like, creepy atmosphere, even if the movie itself isn't super scary. Like, the visuals at least keep a very haunting atmosphere about it the entire time, which I think is great. It's a good foundation to have. I liked the production design and the costuming, especially Evie's 2 gift dresses. Like, those are gorgeous, and she looks amazing in them. And I like Walt's wardrobe as well. They really made sure that Natalie and Thomas looked really good in this movie at the very least.
I feel like Gabby would like it for all that.
The costuming, yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
There is something that I consider a plot twist that starts revealing itself during the turn. It's my favorite aspect of this movie. I'm upset that I didn't pick up on it sooner, since I have such a knowledge of vampire lore. And I'm not going to say what it is, because if you want to go into this movie blind, well, then that would be very much a spoiler.
I'm going to go ahead with the belief that it's actually that the people are just fine. The birds are the problem.
Ooh, never mind. I'm glad you guessed. I like that.
Oh, that's hilarious. I thought that was cool. And that's why I think that the angle that the story takes is interesting. Overall, I think the movie's fine. I'd probably watch it again to see how it plays out now that I know all the twists that are in the movie.
Mm.
It's what I thought it was going to be when I watched the trailer, and I got what I wanted, so I'm satisfied. I just was kind of hoping it would be better than what the trailer was offering.
Yeah, and that's why I started this the way I did, because I saw the trailer and I thought, I'm not going to like this movie. But Demi didn't want to watch a horror movie by herself because she didn't really watch horror movies. So I was like, let's do this. I got an AMC pass.
I wouldn't be upset if they made a sequel based on the final scene that is in the film.
Oh, right.
Like, I was like, well, that would be fun to go along with, like, to continue with. That would be a fun little story to follow.
And that would feel like a different movie. Like,
That
I
would be
feel
a
like,
very different movie.
yeah, I feel like I would probably get more enjoyment out of that story because it wouldn't just be what I felt like romance tropes and then horror tropes. It would be a different kind of thing.
But yeah, that is my mostly positive review for a movie that's just fine. Also, I was able to point out exactly where there's a scene later on in the movie where I was like, oh, that's definitely a reshoot because Natalie Emmanuel has cut her hair since filming it. So I was like, oh, okay, this is a reshoot because you've got the haircut and you're rocking it really well in this scene. That's The Invitation. It's fine. If you like vampires, you'll probably like it.
Victoria was interesting.
I liked Victoria.
Dommy one.
Yeah.
She was a lot.
I liked Victoria and I liked Lucy as well. Like, I like these characters.
I love Lucy.
Anyway, next movie, 3,000 Years of Longing.
3,000 Years of Longing, directed by George Miller and written by George Miller and Augusta Gore. I forgot to look up the things, but George Miller made Mad Max Fury Road. Did he make the other Mad Maxes?
He made all the Mad Maxes.
So. Okay, cool. So he's Mad Max man. Mad Miller.
He's awesome for it.
And I don't know who Augusta Gore is. I'm sorry, I forgot to look it up.
Cool name.
To be fair, I didn't introduce any of what those people did when I was doing The Invitation. So
it's funny, I actually wrote that down. Jessica M. Thompson, she wrote and directed The Light of the Moon, a 2017 movie starring Stephanie Beatrice.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I hear that movie is extremely good.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, she did that 5 years ago. And then Blair Butler is a stand-up comic television host and screenwriter, and she used to be on G4 on Attack of the Show.
What?
And on a show called Fresh Ink that I've never heard.
Is she on it again, or?
They brought it back?
Yeah, G4 is back.
Yeah, G4 is back.
Shout out to G4. I used to watch that sometimes.
Back to George Miller. He also produced Happy Feet.
Yeah, right. I love when people throw that in.
The Penguins.
He also produced Babe.
All right. It's animals and violence. And whatever this is. The movie stars Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton, and it is based on the 1994 short story The Djinn in the Nightingale's Eye by A.S. Byatt. Lovely title. IMDb summary states, a lonely scholar on a trip to Istanbul discovers a djinn who offers her 3 wishes in exchange for his freedom. So, the other reason that I gave that long-ass preamble in the beginning is because this is a movie that I do not think is bad, but I do not really think I like very much. And this is a tricky one because I'm watching the movie and there aren't things I really point out as done poorly. The visuals are fantastic. Obviously, the 2 actors are great. The performances are great. Their banter, their chemistry, I was like, yo, this is some cool stuff. There are parts that I really enjoy, but as a whole, I was walked out. I was like, I don't think I'd want to do that again. Like, as a whole movie, I don't think I really found much enjoyment in it. But there were things I definitely enjoyed about it. And that's why I have to make the distinction, because I don't think this is a bad movie. I think The Invitation is a bad movie. I think this is a movie that was pretty good, just not my cup of tea.
This feels like a movie that you should probably watch more than once to get the full experience and understand everything going on, because there is a lot going on.
So much.
I liked it, I think. And I think I might like it more on a second viewing. I think I feel the same way about this movie as I did when I saw Eternals, which was, I was like, I think I like this movie. There's a lot going on. I don't know. Did I get everything? Maybe I should go watch it again, which is why I saw Eternals for a second time in like the day after before we did the review, so that I could try and get like a sense of what my feelings were. Didn't have the opportunity to do that with this one.
Right.
I think I liked it for the most part. Once I adjusted to the format of the story that they're telling, I really enjoyed the stories that were being told in the movie. I liked that it's a story about the beauty of stories and storytelling. It's also not very conventional, so don't go into it expecting it to be a conventional movie.
I mean, that was kind of how they pitched it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the trailer said, like, from the wild mind to Jordan, like, they tried to...
But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be conventional. I think Mad Max Fury Road is a conventional movie. It's just a really, really good one. It still comes from his wild mind. There is wild things in the Mad Max Fury Road movie and in the Mad Max movies, but they are quite visionary. The way that you see things, like I was watching this movie and I was like, yeah, he is a visionary. Like the way that this movie looks is phenomenal. The visuals like are the best part for me. George Miller knows how to make a movie. I came out of the theater and said that. Like he knows how to make a movie. The cinematography is gorgeous. The magical like effects, like the djinn coming out of his bottle look amazing. The smoke is so beautiful for something that seems so simple. Like it's just smoke, but it's the most beautiful smoke you will probably ever see in a movie.
It's some dope looking smoke.
Yeah, the production design is gorgeous as well. Like this movie looks phenomenal. This is a George Miller movie. It very much is. I don't think that I went into this movie thinking that it was going to be an anthology within a story.
Okay. Right. Like he's telling a bunch of different stories and we're watching those stories.
Yeah, that's not what I was anticipating when I went into the movie. And so once I adjusted to that, I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. Cool.
Right.
I get it now.
I think that is what I expected. I know something about the trailers with everything they were showing. I was thinking, this can't all be one story. There's so much going on.
I only watched that trailer once as well. So by the time I got to the movie, it was all out of my head.
I think I saw one. I saw it in the theater. I know that. But I don't know if I saw it more than once. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Like Demi said, the visuals are fantastic. I feel like with George Miller, and I've only seen, I think, 2 of his movies that he's directed, this one and Fury Road. There's always something in the movie, because he's so good at visuals and visual storytelling and making things look interesting, that I always latch onto something and I think, that looks really cool. I'd rather watch a story about that than the story I'm watching. Or like, I want to know more about this. Can you tell me this story? Because the story you're telling me now is cool, but I'm not really locked in. What's that dude's story? What is this thing? Why does this look like that? Tell me. And then, he won't, but it's fine.
What was the thing in this movie, or is that a spoiler?
To be honest, there's probably a few of them in this movie, because first, that real angry dude that we saw in the first, when she's giving the speech.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, why is he like this? And I can't get into too much detail, but he's not a normal, human being person. It's very surreal, mythical. And I was like, yo, what's up with this guy? Are we going to find... Oh, we're not? Okay. Cool. Which obviously that's not the story you wanted to tell, so that's not like a slight of the movie. It's just a personal thing of like, Now I'm curious about things that I'm not getting, and what I am getting is like, oh, here's a story about a girl who's really smart because she was for knowledge and I gave her a bunch of books.
I would be interested to see how you feel about the other Mad Max movies then, because they're not quite like Fury Road.
I don't think they could be, like, based on what they're from, like the 80s or 70s.
They're from like the 80s. They're also part of the first one, and I think the second one are part of the Australian New Wave. I had to do an entire essay on Australian New Wave like 10 years ago.
Are they all Mel Gibson movies?
Yeah, those ones are all Mel Gibson movies before we, yeah. Anyway, speaking of acting, yeah, like you said, Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba do a great job in this movie. They're the foundation of the movie, so if they don't do well, this movie just crumbles. Like, they have to do well. But also the cast of each story that's being told are also very good in what they're doing, especially since I don't know who any of those actors are.
Right.
They're very good and they're very compelling in the roles that they're given. Sound design, again, amazing. George Miller's movies, for some reason, are always the ones that I like notice the sound design, even if I'm not trying to. Like, it's done really, really well. And what is his name? Tom Holkenborg? I think that's his real name. Junkie XL. He's the guy who did the music for this movie. His score is so unexpected because I have a certain sound associated with Junkie XL, mostly from Zack Snyder movies that he's worked on.
Right.
This is not it. And it was really wonderful to listen to this score.
Yeah, I didn't know it was him until you said it in the credits. I was like, this is really?
Yeah.
You got range.
There's one part of the movie where they have, when King Solomon is playing an instrument, that song is beautiful.
Yeah, I like that. So I could listen to this on like a lo-fi YouTube channel where I'm just vibing out.
Yeah.
I could relax to that.
It was really pretty. But yeah, overall, I liked it. I think I would have to watch it again to get like a good concrete like opinion on what this movie is or how I feel about it. But I think it's good. I don't think it's as good as like Mad Max Fury Road, which I think is one of the greatest action films that's ever been made. This is also not an action film, to be fair. So,
True.
But I do think it's good. I think it's like you said, like it's not a bad movie. It's really well done. It's just a matter of whether or not this movie is your taste. And it's hard for me to be like, I recommend this to To who? I don't know. If you like George Miller films, I definitely recommend it to you. But if you're looking for like a run of the mill kind of movie, you're not gonna get it. That's not what this is.
If you like really weird stories, you might get a kick out of it.
I do really love the fact that, like I said earlier, it's a movie that's about storytelling and about stories, because I am somebody who just loves stories in general.
Right.
So I do really enjoy that aspect of it, which is why I think if I watched it a second time, I would probably really, really like it now that I know what I'm getting into.
Fair. It's very helpful to know what you're getting into sometimes, because then you can temper your expectations in a certain way. All right, that's that movie.
What you been watching?
Colin.
Me.
You watched a bit of a thing, right?
Yeah. So this is my thing that I feel like I should come up with a name for what this is.
We
10
do.
minutes with Colin.
The name is, I was going to say 10-minute takes with Colin.
Ooh,
I like 10-minute takes. Yeah.
So Colin, be prepared to watch 10 minutes of a thing every time we do a podcast.
That's totally fine. I got no problem doing that. So yeah, this is apparently my thing. Started with the rehearsal that I watched 10 minutes of a show and then give my impressions based on that. So for this week's episode, I watched the first 10 minutes of House of the Dragon. And I did watch the first 10 minutes and then turn it off because I was committed to the bit.
Wait, hold on, time out.
What's up?
Did you turn it off because you had agreed to do 10 minutes, or did you okay. What?
I don't.
Did
well,
you want
we'll
to
get
keep
into
watching?
it.
Because you don't have to just watch 10 minutes.
Because
also,
I
we don't have a lot of time for that, so let's.
for a comparison, I also watched the first 10 minutes of Game of Thrones. We'll circle back to that.
Okay.
Yeah, first 10 minutes of House of the Dragon are boring as hell.
It's a lot of exposition.
Well, okay, but that's the thing, right? House of the Dragon is adapted from a history book. It's not adapted from a novel, and it immediately shows. The second the show starts, it's 100 years ago, King Jaehaerys did this, and then his descent, he didn't know who was going to succeed him, so they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this. And then it cuts from that to, okay, dragon, awesome, love that, dragon, okay, right. Cool. Some people talking, cool, we're getting to know people, business meeting, that's where I hit the 10-minute mark. There was nothing in it that was compelling at all. And, I watched the first 10 minutes of Game of Thrones to compare. And the first 10 minutes of Game of Thrones, if you have not seen it or are unfamiliar, is random people we're never going to see again finding out that I don't remember what the show calls them.
It's the White Walkers.
Are they the White Walkers? Yeah, that's really confusing because it's not what they are in the books. Anyway, finding out that basically the dead can come back to life and there's creepy magic and oh my God, this is terrifying.
Right.
That is super. And then it cuts into the intro, the Game of Thrones intro, which just bangs. And it's just like, that's the first 10 minutes. It ends at the intro. And it's like, that is so, I want to know who these people are. Why are they out here? Who are the dead people? Why did the bodies disappear? Why are they coming back to life? How does this work? I have so many questions that I'm interested in finding out about. And House of the Dragon, I'm like, you just gave me a history lesson. And now you put me in a business meeting. The last line.
The problem is that the problem is you only watch 10 minutes and I watched the full episode. So I understand why we set up that beginning, because then when we get later into the episode, it kind of is mirrored in what's happening within the story itself that we're being
right. I mean, and I know that that's where it's going to go. That's obvious because I know what the setup of this show is. It's a fight over succession. I know that. But you couldn't have done it in a way that was less dry. I mean, just a voiceover, people in rooms talking about things I don't care about.
And also definitely foreshadowing something that's definitely going to be happening later on down the road.
Oh, most certainly. But it's like, you got to think of it like a first impression, right? And obviously you should give the episode its full length, because I specifically did
you gave it 10 minutes.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, is that Game of Thrones did in 10 minutes something much more compelling.
But Game of Thrones had to snatch you immediately in those 10 minutes. This show knows that it has the Game of Thrones.
Do it too.
Yeah, they know that they have the Game of Thrones fandom. They don't care about that. It's kind of like...
It feels very lazy because they have this first scene and then they end it with 172 years before Daenerys, just to remind you that's what you care about. This is relevant somehow, we promise. We know you don't give a shit about this, but hey, we mentioned Daenerys. Don't you care now? You care now. They're related to her. And it's like, you're trying too hard. You don't have what Game of Thrones had, and you're going to build it maybe, but build it.
To be fair, a lot of Game of Thrones fans are already back on board for House of the Dragon, so they did what they needed to do with this first episode. It just got renewed for season 2, which we will be talking about later. And that's a big deal, seeing as a bunch of people who watched Game of Thrones were like, I'm never trusting these motherfuckers again after that last season.
Sure.
Well, yes, but hopefully people would understand the difference between different people running different shows and
Most
different
people
source
don't realize
material.
that this is being run by different people.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like most people don't look into that kind of stuff.
They
It's
don't
like,
care.
oh, I didn't like that show when it ended, and this is more of that.
Yeah.
well, I
This is
mean,
more of
apparently it worked. So
Yeah.
anyway,
10-minute
that's
take
my
with
10-minute
Colin.
take is watch Game of Thrones, the first 10 minutes of Game of Thrones instead. You'll have a more fun time.
I also watched The House of the Dragon, and I
I'm
thought it
sorry,
was a
is this
good
your
first
section?
episode.
Is this your section?
Oh, no. Yours is over. Now we're moving forward. No.
Yeah, this is. I
Ow.
think this is her what you're watching, Colin.
Yeah, no.
This is a perfect segue into Demi's what you're watching.
Nah. I mean, like, I wasn't actually going to talk about that, though. I was actually going to talk about the fact that I went to go see Rogue One in IMAX, and it was dope as hell.
Oh, yeah.
But I just wanted to add on to the House of the Dragons thing to say that I have watched the entirety of the first episode. I think it's off to a good start. I will be interested to see how the rest of the season goes. I agree with Colin. I don't think that the first episode is as compelling as the first episode of Game of Thrones, but it does kind of remind me of this is a weird comparison, but like Avatar: The Last Airbender versus like The Legend of Korra, where like we get just jump straight into Avatar: The Last Airbender, whereas with The Legend of Korra we get the 2-minute preface of here's what's happened since you last saw Avatar. Okay, and now here's the show.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And I feel like that's just a thing that shows do when you have to make like a sequel or a prequel. It's just like, oh, we kind of have to explain to you because we know you cared about that thing, but we're moving on to something else.
And I do think I agree with both of your points earlier. To me, point that they know they got you, so they don't really need to go as hard. But I also agree with Colin's point that I wouldn't say lazy so much as kind of complacent, and that we already have the audience.
Yes,
We don't
that's a
need to
better
try
word.
hard to grab an audience with these first 10 minutes because we already grabbed them.
So I think what's next on this is, Dallas, you watch like 5 minutes of something.
That sounds horrible. Also, but
you watch 5 minutes of something, you come on, you say it's good or it's bad, and that's it.
But yeah, House of the Dragons. As I was saying, I saw Rogue One in anticipation of Andor coming out. I went to go see it in IMAX, and it was dope. I had never seen it in IMAX. I think this is the first Star Wars movie I've ever seen in IMAX, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
And they had a special look at Andor before the movie started, which was super cool. And the show looks really, really good. And I'm really excited about it. I really like the way that show is looking so far in all of its sneak previews and its trailers. I like the prequel aesthetic that it's giving, but also like a mixture, like a meeting of the two, of the OG trilogy and of the prequel trilogy, this age of espionage, and it's really dope. I really like it. The aesthetic looks good. The writing looks good. All of it looks really, really dope. So I'm excited for that to come out next month. Couple of weeks.
Nice.
We're a couple of weeks out. Super excited for that. Dallas, what you been watching?
Colin, get ready to call me a weeb because I've been watching an anime.
Oh.
I think me and Colin will decide whether or not it counts as an anime.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Colin, you watch whatever.
No, don't make me pull up the. Hold on, I'll pull it up later. But
Colin be watching hentai in the living room.
Anime was a mistake.
I mean,
oh my
anyway.
gosh,
I know that based on some of the stuff you watch. Anyway, Tekken. My love for Tekken has been reignited because I watched all of Tekken Bloodline the night it came out on August 18th. And then the next night, I played through Tekken 7, a game that I've had for at least 4 years and never really played because I treat video games like I treat books. They sit on my shelf and they look nice. And I think I should do that. And then I don't. Anyway, Tekken Bloodline. It's directed by Yoshikazu Miao and written by Gavin Hignite. All of the episodes are directed and written by those two people because it plays like one long story, basically. It's 6 episodes, but it's essentially a long movie.
It's only 6?
Only 6. It stars Kaiji Tang, Vivian Liu, S. Hiroshi Watanabe, a dude named Elliot, and Chris Galiko as Leroy Smith, aka the old black guy from Tekken that T-Pain did the best cosplay ever for. Look it up if you haven't seen it. It's fantastic. It's based on Tekken by Bandai Namco, the video game franchise. The summary states, follow Jin Kazama and his fight to become one of the best fighters in the King of the Iron Fist tournament. That is super reductive because the only reason he goes is because he's with his mom. A big monster shows up, attacks the house. His mom's like, go find your grandfather. He finds his grandfather. His grandfather's an evil rich man who runs a fighting tournament and multinational conglomerate. And that leads to Tekken. So basically, the series was created as an homage to the third game in the franchise, Tekken 3. I'm reading all this from Wikipedia. The producers explain how the staff tried being faithful to the original narrative and franchise by having the characters perform several moves from the games while also having the same audio. And this is why I love this show so much. It's such a faithful adaptation in story and style, because the Tekken story is ridiculous. Our main character is a dude who's introduced in Tekken 3. At this point, we're at Tekken 7 with, spin-offs here and there. But the main protagonist is a guy that we got in the third game. And in the first two games, it was really a father-son beef between Heihachi, an old evil man, and Kazuya, his younger evil son, who Heihachi threw off a mountain when Kazuya was 5.
As you do.
And then Kazuya won the tournament, took over the company, threw Heihachi off the same mountain. And then Heihachi beat Kazuya the next time and threw him into a volcano to finish the job. It's an insane family, and I love it. And I think anime is the perfect medium for such a ridiculous story. Because if I tell you something like that, and I tell you it's an anime, if you know anime, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Of course you did.
And Tekken is full of stories like that. Everyone in this show feels like they do in the game story, because it's pretty much, we're going to bring the storylines from Tekken 3 straight into the anime. My wish, that I have no faith in, is that this would become one of those shows that lasts for a super long time. Because Tekken has so many dope characters, but a lot of their stories are only tangentially related to the Kazamas and Mishimas. That's the main family. To put it a way that we'll all understand, the Kazamas and Mishimas are like the Skywalkers in Star Wars. So how, Colin, you always feel like you like to venture out of that story. There are so many other stories that take you to this tournament run by this main family, but the main parts of those stories are only tangentially related. So I'm like, yo, I want more Yoshimitsu. Yoshimitsu's in the anime, but doesn't have any lines. They just show him. And Yoshimitsu is basically a more interesting Japanese Robin Hood. Like, eat the rich, gang. He's Robin Hood, but he's a Japanese dude with a sword like Katana from DC. And he changes his aesthetic every game just because he's dope. And I want more about him. But yeah, I love the show. I don't watch a lot of anime, as you guys know. The show does a lot of stuff that I think is very, very anime inspired, like over-the-top reactions to benign things. The first episode, I'm watching with Kayla, and Jin is outside when he's a teenager, and he beats up some bullies, because that's what you do when you're a protagonist in a fighting show. And then a woman comes up to him, and she says something like, something, Jin Kazama. She says his name, and his eyes get big, and he does the anime reaction. And I'm like, oh, does he not know this woman? Is he surprised that she knows his name? Who is this woman? And then they walk home together. She's his mom. They live together.
He definitely wasn't expecting his mom to catch him fighting these guys.
And that's the thing, is that anything can garner such a reaction, but it's just like, you have to see it, because it's like when she says it. And I know, like many anime, this was recorded in Japanese, and I watched the English version. So there are probably things in translation that would, if you say the Japanese version, it might warrant a reaction. But also, I've seen enough anime to like, and shout out to RDC World making all those videos, not just like anime based, when something happens and it's like, oh, and it's just like, yeah, your mom said your name, go home. I love this show. And I just love how much they respect the source material. And I love how it reignited my love for the franchise. And I love YouTube algorithms, because now I'm getting a bunch of Tekken related videos because I searched for one after I watched the show. And now I can just bask in my Tekken love. So yeah, if you like Tekken and or anime, I recommend it. Give it a shot. Please, everybody, watch this so I can get a season 2. That's Tekken Bloodlines.
You won't.
Maybe you'll get more of the other characters. Maybe they'll do, like, they're saying that House of the Dragon
or something?
might be an anthology series instead of just being like one story.
What?
Interesting.
Yeah, they're saying that
they'll go to different families and stuff.
No, not different families. They're just saying different seasons might be different time periods within the Targaryen storyline.
So what I need you to do is you tell me the second they're doing the Mad King, because I will watch all of that.
I feel like if they did that, they would make that a whole separate series. But maybe they would do it on House of the Dragon. I don't know.
I am suddenly more interested. Hello.
So maybe the Tekken Bloodlines game, like, the seasons can be different characters.
I would love that. There's so many dope characters.
All right, let's jump into to news and trailer tracking.
Trailer tracking. Boom, boom. Pinocchio. Boom. We got a new trailer.
Pinocchio coming out very soon.
Yes.
The Disney one this time.
The
Plus,
Disney one, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a throwback coming out when it comes out. So look for that and watch it, please.
Yeah, guys, that's coming.
This looks like Pinocchio, but not made in the 40s, so better.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They took a lot of the weird 1940s stuff out of it. The puppets that dance with Pinocchio don't have titties anymore. They're not busting it open for him.
It's a very nice looking ballerina.
Yeah. Cynthia Erivo's in it. That's great. I didn't see Tom Hanks with the heater on him, so I'm still waiting for that. Because if that's not in the movie, what's the point? But yeah, other than that, we got Pinocchio.
You want Tom Hanks to start blasting?
He does. Jiminy also seems a lot less like he's about to quit every 5 seconds. Because there's a moment where he's talking to that bird and he's like, oh my gosh, Pinocchio's out there without a conscience. What if something can go terribly wrong? And I just kept thinking about us watching the original movie. Jiminy being like, he'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong? Which is the complete opposite of what Jiminy says in this trailer.
Yeah, Jiminy's whole energy in the first one is basically, I don't need this. My man has 2 jobs. And this is a very different take. So we'll see what they do with it.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt sounds a lot like the original Jiminy, though, in this trailer.
Okay, that's who that was. I didn't know. I was like, who is this guy? That's cool. I like him.
I think the effects on this movie look really good.
Yeah.
I was expecting Pinocchio to look a lot creepier than he does in this trailer, which Colin probably does not agree with me. But it's got like wood grain. It looks pretty realistic, but also still like it's animated, which is really cool. I like that the eyes, whenever the pupils and irises move, it looks like 2D animation, like just kind of flying across the eye, which I think is really cool instead of it being like a 3D kind of effect. I think it looks really nice. Looks really, really dope. The fox looks dope.
Honest John. Is that Keegan-Michael Key?
That is. I was very impressed by the way that the effects look. It looks really good.
Yep. It looks good. Looks like they got that Disney money. I probably won't watch it, but I look forward to hearing your thoughts. I'm always torn. Like, do I ask Colin or do we just wait for Indifferent
Opinions? Just wait for, if he doesn't naturally talk, just wait for Indifferent Opinions.
Colin will say something if he wants to say something. All right. Speaking of Keegan-Michael Key, Reboot. Not to be confused with the Cartoon Network show from when we were children that like 10 of us remember.
I was about to say, I didn't know that was a thing.
Exactly. Nobody knows. But like if somebody out there is listening like, yo, Reboot, I remember that. So that's for you. This is a very different thing. It's a, it's a Hulu. Is it a show or a movie? TV show?
It's a TV show.
I think it's a show.
Yeah. It's a show about a show being rebooted. Yeah. It looks very, very meta humor. I think one of the women who used to work at Cracked is in it. I can't remember her name. To me, give your thoughts. If I can find her name, I'll find it. If not, then I just won't say it.
Yeah, I randomly saw this trailer as an ad on YouTube before one of the videos that I was watching, and I was going to skip it, but then I got so engrossed in the trailer that I wanted to see the rest of it, so you got me, YouTube. Congratulations. Yeah, I think it looks really funny. I'm a fan of Keegan-Michael Key. I love Judy Greer. I'm glad that she's like a lead on this show because I feel like she's always a supporting character. And she deserves a lot better than that because she's really good no matter what she's doing in something. Callum Worthy's on the show, and I like him as well.
I love him now that he was in Bodied.
Yeah. Johnny Knoxville is on the show. I just think it looks really funny. I think it's hilarious that somebody was like, yo, let's make a TV show about how like Hollywood does nothing but reboot television shows.
Judy Greer's character is named Brie Larson.
Hilarious.
What? I don't know why. They spell it different. It's Brie with 2 E's, but her name is Brie
Marie Larson. That's funny. I don't know if anybody looked that over and just
like,
missed it.
She's so famous. Yeah, we'll see if that becomes a thing. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be... Cute feels like dismissive.
Yeah, I don't think it looks cute. It just looks like a good time.
Yeah.
Or like a sitcom. It's a sitcom. It looks like it's going to be a good time. It'll probably be very funny. I am curious as to what the show that they're rebooting was about. Because I was like, what are these 3 adults and this child doing in the original show? I was like, are they all raising this child, or why is the black guy involved? What's
it's
happening?
Called Step Right Up, I think, or something.
I think something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guess it's something along the lines of like somebody died and then their friends are like raising the kid or something.
Like Party of 5. Interesting.
Like co-parenting. I don't know.
I just thought it was interesting.
We'll see.
We'll find out when the show comes out. I think it comes out next month, September.
Reboot Hulu. September 20th.
Are you still looking, Dallas?
I couldn't find the woman's name. I'm sorry, but you know who you are if you're listening to this. You're not. Moving on. Wednesday. Netflix, right?
Yes, Netflix.
Yes.
We're like a week or 2 behind on this trailer, but I wanted to talk about it because it's the Addams Family, which is kind of a big part of the cultural zeitgeist. Also, it looks really good. I'm really interested. I didn't think I would be as interested in it as I am. Yeah, I've never seen Jenna Ortega act before.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the work that she's done, which isn't anything against her. I've never seen You. I haven't gotten around to it yet, and she's done a lot of horror movies, and I'm not down for that. So this is like the first thing that I really want to see, and I think she's doing a fantastic job as Wednesday in this trailer. Like, I really like her performance in the trailer alone.
Mm-hmm.
Just the really subtle mannerisms, the way that she speaks. Like, I really like that. She's really good in this trailer. So I'm really interested to watch the rest of the show.
To me, are you telling me you didn't watch the horror movie about people in Texas making a porn?
You're right. I did not see what's it called? X?
Yeah, X.
Yeah, I didn't see X.
But somehow already has a prequel. Like, the trailer's already out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they filmed them back to back.
She's in it. I heard it's good. I didn't watch it.
She's also in the most recent Scream movie.
Yeah, look at her being a Scream queen.
She is the like modern Scream queen. She's like the new generation Scream queen. So especially, I mean, she's also in the Addams Family, which like isn't horror, but like it's gothic.
Yeah,
So,
it's horror adjacent.
That's her thing, apparently. She's got it in the bag. I like the cast for the show. I do like Tim Burton stuff, obviously. I've watched a number of his movies and am a fan of his general aesthetic and the stories that he tends to tell. So that's also why I'm excited. Also, it's written by Alfred Goh and Miles Millar, who created Smallville and Into the Badlands, and they do a lot of comic book TV, but also a lot of genre stuff. They wrote the screen story for Spider-Man 2. They've done a lot of work that I really, really enjoy. So I'm also really excited about that. And I think it's an interesting concept to send Wednesday to a strange, out of the ordinary school.
Yeah.
Because the Addams Family as a concept kind of relies on the idea that they are extremely strange in a neighborhood of normal people.
Right.
And so now we're sending Wednesday to an area where she is no longer she's no longer the only weird thing there, but she might just be the strangest one out of all of them.
Yeah, it's fun to have a new take on the classic formula. But that's Wednesday.
I'm excited. I kind of hope that they release the show on a Wednesday since they released the trailer on a Wednesday.
Definitely should.
That would make sense, yeah.
Wednesday, coming this Wednesday.
You should drop it on a Wednesday. And it's sometime in October, I'm going to assume, because spooky season.
Probably.
Yeah, the marketing is very easy for this. A Wednesday in October, bang, bang.
Also, the visuals on the show look really, really good. So I'm excited. I'm far more excited for this show than I thought I was going to be.
That makes sense, given how we're just now talking about it. All right. I was looking up if Halloween's on a Wednesday. It's not.
It's not. I was looking that up too.
Yeah. Anyway, Max Shakman. He left Star Trek, and now he's in talks to direct Fantastic Four. I am happy and sad because I forgot that John Watts wasn't doing this movie anymore. So then I found out all over again that John Watts is not making the Fantastic Four movie. Oh.
You had to find out again eventually somehow.
Yeah, I was gonna find out watching the movie or something. But yeah, Max Shakman. I really like WandaVision. Is that Max Shakman?
It was
That's him.
He directed every episode.
I am optimistic.
Yeah, I absolutely loved WandaVision. It is still my favorite MCU television show that has been released. Well, favorite MCU Disney Plus show that's been released so far. Right. I think he did a great job. I think my only concern is, I think it was the last time that Marvel hired a TV director. That director got very overwhelmed and they gave us Thor: The Dark World, which
is
like
good.
Thor: The Dark World, but it's not the best MCU movie, and that's not the quality that I would want for a Fantastic Four movie because of how many times we've done Fantastic Four at this point. I would like for the Fantastic Four to have a very amazing, incredible movie, because as much as I like the 2000s ones, they're not great. And the 2015 one started off real strong and then was destroyed by its own second half.
Yeah. Not a lot of luck with these. Yeah. Thor: The Dark World. Colin likes it. To me, likes it. Like Timmy said, it's not the greatest. It is widely seen as the worst, depending on who you ask. So not a great precedent there. But was the person who directed that movie, like, they weren't making like Marvel shows, right?
They weren't making Marvel shows, but they were making Game of Thrones, which is pretty top tier television, close to movie making.
Now I'm trying to think of when Game of Thrones came out.
It started in 2011.
Oh, snap. 11 years ago? Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
All right. That was, man, we old. But yeah, I'm still optimistic because I like WandaVision. I like Max Shakman, I think.
I'm choosing to go into this with optimism. I like to go into these things with optimism. There is nothing telling me that Matt Shakman would make a bad movie. I just also, I'm like, well, last time Marvel hired a TV director, that happened. So I would hate for that to happen again with specifically the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I feel like hopefully it won't. Like, this movie has to be good because, like, you were talking about the other ones, and everybody starts talking about, we've never got a good Fantastic Four movie unless you count The Incredibles, but a lot of people don't. But yeah, we're doing it again for the third time. Now it's MCU. You got to make it work. I think they'll make it work.
The funny thing is, Matt Shakman also directed for Game of Thrones.
Oh, look at that. That's where they're getting their TV guys from.
He's also directed The Boys.
Love to see it. Superheroes. He got it. He'll do it.
Heroes Reborn.
What is that? Is that the...
That was the sequel series to Heroes.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
He did an episode of Chuck. What?
You said he did Game of Thrones?
Yeah, he did like 2 episodes of Game of Thrones.
Sweet. Speaking of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, renewed for season 2.
Which we brought up earlier. It has been indeed. Did. I'm surprised it wasn't picked up earlier for season 2.
Yeah,
I felt like
this feels like one of those shows that they would announce it and then like a month later would announce that a season 2 had been, like what that happens sometimes. But hey, they were a little more conservative, which is
they were concerned.
Not surprising given that HBO is like, I don't even know what's going on over there anymore.
That's fair.
But yeah, I am also surprised it took this long, like the first episode, for them to renew a Game of Thrones show. But hey, congrats.
They might have been concerned after like the backlash and the response to season 8 of Game of Thrones. Maybe they thought that people would not be as interested. It has been like 3 years since that season like ended. So maybe they were just a little concerned as to what the fan reaction would be. But it did have record-breaking numbers for the pilot episode. So yeah, it's no-brainer, of course. Renewed for season 2. Done.
Speaking of being concerned, let's talk about DC.
Oh,
DC
God.
might have found their Kevin Feige.
Oh, that. Okay. Well, there we go.
No,
That's
it's not
better.
one of the concerning stories. It's just DC is a concerning thing now.
Dan Lin. I'm cool with this as long as it still means that he's going to give me my Aladdin sequel.
Right, that's what he was doing, Aladdin. Because he produced the first one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where I recognized his name from when it popped up. I was like, oh, he's one of the Aladdin producers. And then I was like, oh no, what if that means he can't produce Aladdin 2?
Yes, I did not recognize his name. It was a very sorry to this man moment. And then I looked at the article. I saw some movies I like.
Yeah, he also produced the Lego Batman movie and the Lego movie.
And It.
Yeah, the It movies, Godzilla vs. Kong.
There's a lot of Warner Brothers stuff.
Oh, Godzilla King of the Monsters.
We'll see what he does. We'll see what Dan does.
He does work with WB a lot.
Yeah.
I guess we're assuming he's on board for the new dude's 10-year plan or whatever. The new 10-year plan.
Well, so here's the thing. People keep saying that Zaslav has a 10-year plan. That is not what he said.
Oh.
He said the plan is to put together a team to create a 10-year plan. So first he has to create a team in order to make that 10-year plan. I don't think he has a 10-year plan in mind.
Okay.
He might have like a general idea of what he wants out of it, but I don't think
I mean, the general idea is probably money, but...
Exactly.
Yeah, but I don't want his 10-year plan.
I don't think he's like, oh, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Like, I don't think that's on his brain at all. From what I understand from the article, Dan Lin will be coming in to take over all of television and movies for DC.
Yes, replacing Walter Hamada. What's his name?
Yes, but Hamada was only in charge of DC films. He was not in charge of DC television. Dan Lin would be in charge of every piece of on-screen media that we would get from DC going forward. So if it's TV, if it's a movie, it's under his banner. He is what they said he would be. He would be the Kevin Feige of DC.
Right.
I don't know, maybe he had to pitch to them an idea of what his 10-year plan would be, what it would look like. So Lin would have to report directly to CEO David Zaslav.
Yeah, makes sense. He's the boss.
In the same way that I think Feige has to report directly to CEO of Disney, Chapek.
Mickey Mouse. Oh, right.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I hope he's good at his job. I hope he does it well. My advice, which he doesn't need and won't hear, would just be copy the DC animated universe because it's the best connected universe that we've gotten.
See, that's the thing is I saw somebody suggest that the architect of the DC stuff should be Bruce Timm, but then I remember the Killing Joke and I say, wait, maybe not.
We would get Batman, Batgirl content, and I don't need that in my life ever again.
Like, I feel like that's fine if you put him in a room with people who can tell him no on certain things. Like, overall plan, I'm sure he'd be great at that. But then he says, oh, Batman and Batgirl, and you say, you know what, Bruce? Let's take a walk. Think about what you just said.
Then again, Bruce Timm is now available since they canceled Caped Crusaders, which sucks.
Well,
So-
did they cancel?
they're
Because
still
I heard it was
shopping it
being
around.
shopped
They're
elsewhere.
shopping it around to other people, but HBO Max has canceled it, which means
Yeah, they're
that
not
it
gonna
doesn't
do
have a home.
Right.
So
But
if nobody
I'm sure
else
someone's
picks it
gonna
up,
pick it up.
it's done.
I'm sure someone's gonna pick it up.
I say as somebody who has had a lot of my favorite shows go shopped around to other places and never picked back up again. So
Mhm. But a Batman show, that feels like somebody would.
I mean, they can only shop it around to WB places. So
Which I think is interesting because it's like HBO, Batman, he's that dude for you guys. Like, just make
It's also
make the
weird
show.
because you're all under the same umbrella. So in some sense, all the money is flowing to the same place.
Yeah, why not just put it on HBO Max?
So, yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. As weird as Bruce Timm is, I agree with whoever said that thing. Because as long as he doesn't, have Batman knock up Batgirl.
Lord.
He's so good at storytelling. And he made what I already said is my favorite connected universe. So I want that again. Or I just want Dan Lin to copy that and leave out the weirdest parts. But we'll see what he does.
Speaking of Batman, Batman's father, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, has been cast in The Boys Season 4.
Yes. Along with his other son, Jensen Ackles, who I don't know if he's going to be back. Because
I can't believe I just made a Batman versus Superman reference.
I mean, hey, you got to work with what you got in terms of segues.
I did it.
I'm excited. I'm so excited. I love The Boys. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is fantastic. He's worked with the dude's name, who I'm blanking on, who made Supernatural.
Eric Kripke.
Eric Kripke?
Yeah. When we brought Jensen on to work with Kripke in this capacity, it was chef's kiss. So I feel like it's going to be the same when we bring on Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And I'm sure he's going to play a character who's absolutely horrendous.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan is one of those dudes that, like, I don't see him often, but when I do, he is always really good.
Right? He's just that dude.
Yeah.
Just that dude.
His wife is also just as talented as he is. Hillary Burton is amazing. Anyway, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, they haven't announced what character he's playing on the show. So, yep, you're probably right. He probably will be playing somebody absolutely horrendous. I haven't read the comics. I don't even know who I would even begin guessing he might be playing, but I'm sure he'll be amazing.
I'm looking forward to finding out. Who's Hillary Burton? She an actress?
She is an actress. She's most well known for One Tree Hill.
Nice. Shout out to her.
Speaking of superheroes.
Okay, cool. There we go. Umbrella Academy. It's going to be over. Season 4 is the last one.
I'm sad.
Netflix is trying to restart our beef, but it's fine. If you saw the end of the last season, it kind of feels like we can wind down. Not from like a quality standpoint. I think the show is still really good, but just like given where the story's going, I'm like, all right, how many more apocalypses do we got in this?
All of them. It's probably a good place to end. I would have preferred 5 seasons, but whatever. It's fine. 4
Right.
is okay. I am happy that they are going to be able to end the show on their terms, though. When you know that your show is going to be ending with a certain amount of seasons or with a certain season, it's better because then the writers can at least write it off in a way where it feels completed instead of us ending things on somewhat of a cliffhanger. And the Umbrella Academy is very good at cliffhangers, and I would have hated for it to get canceled on one of their cliffhangers.
Yeah. Wouldn't want that.
Because every season has ended on a very good cliffhanger.
You're like, yo, what's about to happen next time?
Now you'll find out next year.
Yep. Can't do that again. I mean, they can do that again. Just like you won't ever find out. Ask Gerard Way. Hopefully they don't do that.
I feel like you can end shows on like a cliffhanger, but it can't be like the cliffhangers that they've ended us on. It's got to be on one of those, that we're never going to finish this story,
Right.
but like know that they are still going off on adventures. Like that's kind of how Killjoys ended, where it's like they're going off on a new adventure. I don't know what this adventure is. I don't know what they'll be doing, but I know that they're still going to be doing what they've been doing for the last 5 seasons. And I can feel satisfied in knowing that they are okay and doing what they've always done.
Mm-hmm. I feel you. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to like it. It'll end. I don't think it'll make me too sad. I do like the show a lot, but it's not like a real favorite of mine. That's going to hurt me when it ends.
It might hurt me when it ends. It depends on how the season goes.
And Steve Blackman is moving on to Horizon Zero Dawn, which is like a tangential news thing.
He's also moving on to another show called The Orbital.
He's making 2 shows.
Yeah, he is. He's got like an all-around deal with Netflix, I think.
I could say Black Man because his name is Black Man. Get your money, Black Man.
That's all the news we've got for you guys today.
I stopped because I Googled his name. I remember Steve Blackman is a wrestler. And I saw a picture of him and I was like, I don't think this is the same person. It's not. But he is in fact white. That is the new... Wait! Indifferent Opinions. Colin, Pinocchio, go.
Okay, so, I mean, I don't care about Pinocchio. Like, we watched the original. I was like, this is fine. I don't really need to see another version of this. I was fine with the trailer as a trailer until Pinocchio like turned his body around without turning his head
knew it.
around or something. I don't know what
Like he does in
it
the
was
movie.
cursed. I didn't
He
like
did in the
it.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
I knew that
don't
wasn't
like
gonna
it.
work with
It's
you.
bad. It looks more upsetting when it's like live action esque. So miss me with that. Thank you.
All right. Reboot.
Reboot was such an interesting experience because I watched that trailer waiting for something to make me feel, and nothing did. So it was just like me staring stone faced at my monitor, like, okay.
It's a comedy,
right.
buddy. If it doesn't make you laugh, that's the moment it was trying to make you feel. So it's not working for you.
Yeah, it's not working for me, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't look bad. I'm not like against it. I'm just like, yeah, not for me.
Two things. One, that sentence is like the perfect distillation of this whole segment. It's just of indifferent opinions. But also, that's the thing I like about comedies is given the way that, like movie critique is these days, and, the fact that we've been doing a podcast for 200 episodes, I have to really think sometimes, do I like this thing? Why do I like this thing? Is this thing making for me? Blah, 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 blah. But with comedies, it's like, did I laugh? No, I don't like it. Did I laugh? Yes, I like it. So I appreciate comedies for that.
We're not at 200 episodes yet.
Yes, we are almost there.
Almost.
What is this? 190?
198.
Ooh, about to be there. Wednesday. Did you say anything about Wednesday, Colin?
I don't know if I did. I have never particularly been interested in the Addams Family, but I like this version of it where it's like she's not going to be the only weird one. Because I want to see, like, what is this school like? What are these kids like? What weird shit do they do? So I'll probably watch it, or at least, give it a try, see how it goes.
All right. Matt Shakman, Fantastic Four.
I mean, I liked WandaVision for what it was. I thought it was pretty cool. Fantastic Four is whatever. I've seen the first one. I don't think I ever saw Silver Surfer. I saw the 2015 one, which was half of a really good movie. The thing is, I feel like at this point, Marvel can do literally anything and they will make billions of dollars. So it doesn't really matter what they do. Like,
that's not what we're here to critique, though, Colin.
I mean, that's his indifferent opinion. He's not wrong to an extent that they will make that money.
It's like, will they make money? Yes. Is that what I care about? No, I care about whether or not the movie's good.
Yeah. You did talk about House of the Dragon. I think you talked about the DC thing. You talked about Jeffrey Dean Morgan being dope. Umbrella Academy, you say anything for that?
He stopped watching after season 1.
I watched like the first 2 episodes of season 2 and it wasn't really my vibe. So I don't know. Maybe I'll hop back on that train at some point. You don't know. Leave the door open.
There's an Arrested Development narrator right now. Ron Howard is going.
Exactly.
And he didn't.
He did not.
You don't know me.
We know you decently enough.
All right, everybody. That's been Indifferent Opinions. Thank you, Colin. And thank you, audience. You made it to the end. You listened to everything we said. Hopefully. Maybe you skipped around. That's fine, too. Thank you, Cran Digital, Brandon, and Io for putting us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To me, thank you for editing. Thank you for putting us on YouTube and being my movie buddy for the 2 movies that we talked about an hour ago, or however that long that was.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It was a while ago. Colin, thank you for providing a 10-minute take and Indifferent Opinions. You have, I feel like we're going to get to a point where everything you say is just in a segment based around
pretty much, yeah,
how you are. And I love it. Branding. Audience, what'd you think of The Invitation? What about 3,000 Years of Longing? What should DC's plan be? Should it be Batman laying some pipe for Batgirl?
What did you guys think of House of the Dragon?
Colin's face. Yes, that too. That more tame question. What'd you think of that? Let us know in the comments or hit us on Twitter at y'all_different, Instagram and Tumblr at Creative Differences Podcast, or Facebook.com/Creative Differences PC. If you want to talk about Tekken with me, please find me on Twitter and or Instagram, because when you're into something and you don't have a lot of people to talk about it with, it's so nice when you find a kindred spirit. Like at work, I told a dude that they made a Tekken anime, and the way his eyes lit up made me so happy. I was like, yo, we're here. We vibing. Miguel, shout out to you if you're listening to this somehow. I don't know how you would be unless future me tells you about it, but if you are, thanks for listening. All that. Also, find me on Twitter and or Instagram at a king named Simba.
If you want to, honestly, this is just going to be my thing. Tell me what show I should watch 10 minutes of next. Like, am I watching 10 minutes of something that like is just coming out? Is that what the thing is? Or whatever? I don't know. Give me ideas. Hit me up on Twitter at Duck McGuck.
I can recommend shows that you don't have to worry about finishing because you might just not finish it. I'm so happy. I have a list.
You guys can come talk to me about vampires because I really love vampires on Twitter and Instagram at Dreamy Films. Dreamy spelled DREEMI. Thanks again for joining us.
Yes. Also, if you want to find Gabby, she is on Twitter at 3,000 Years of Sucking. It is a vampire joke, not a fellatio joke.
Thank you.
Don't go there.
Because based on previous usernames that we have given, it would be hard to tell.
Exactly. But, you know, maybe it is. All right. It's been different. Bye.
Bye.
All right, Demi. You've had time to think of the question in your head.
Oh,
You've
dang.
had time to revisit. So I ask again, any vampire, who would you choose to be the vampire that bites you?
Once again, I have a list. The long list. I think I said Silas Briarwood last time.
Right.
Definitely Kisa from Dusk Till Dawn. Although she
Fair.
would have to have the snake face on when she does it, which is kind of, neither here nor there. But yeah, Marcel Gerard, Rebecca Michelson from the originals.
Got it.
You know what? Thomas Doherty in The Invitation.
All right.
Recency bias, but yeah, I'd let him.
I think that was a solid. That's a 5. That's 5, right?
I think that's like 5. That's not my top
Good.
5, but that's like off the top of my head at this very moment.
I respect that.
And that's today's Splash Zone, ladies and gentlemen.
The Splash Zone is back.